20 minut ravno primerle primera 20 WPM. Pishufdare rolikis content plana. I paid for everything in that house. So I took it all back. The morning they left for the cruise, my mother handed me a list. Water the fern twice a week. Check the soil before you water it, she said, because the fern is fussy. Collect the mail daily. Keep the house tidy. We'll be exhausted when we get back, and I'd hate to come home to a mess. She said all of this with her travel purse already on her shoulder, passport in hand, sunscreen in her bag. 10 days of Caribbean sunshine, waiting on the other side of a flight she had charged to an 18% interest card to impress the neighbors. My father gave me an awkward side hug, the kind that says I feel vaguely guilty, but not enough to change anything. My sister Lydia waved from the passenger seat, without looking up from her phone. And my mother paused at the car door, turned back with that expression she reserved for moments when she wanted to seem generous while asking for something. You're such a good daughter, Hensley. You always understand. We're so lucky to have you. The words should have felt warm. Instead, they felt like a job description. I watched the car back out of the driveway. I watched it turn the corner. I stood there until the sound of the engine faded into the ordinary Saturday morning sounds of the neighborhood. Lawnmowers, dogs barking, children playing in someone else's yard. Then I went inside and looked at the fern, and I thought, I am not going to water that fern. My name is Hensley. I am 34 years old. And the 10 days my family spent on a cruise I was not invited to were the 10 days I spent taking back everything I had quietly given away. Over 8 years. But before I tell you what I did while they were gone, I need to tell you what I found when I finally stood still long enough to look. I moved back into my parents' house at 26, fresh off a layoff from my first real job. It was supposed to be temporary. 3 months. Maybe 6. There was no lease, no rental agreement, just a verbal understanding that I would help where I could while I got back on my feet. I got back on my feet within 4 months. I landed a position as an operations coordinator for a logistics company. Not glamorous, not wealthy, but decent money, and I was good with budgets. Really good. But I never left. The help where I could evolved the way slow damage always does. Quietly. Incrementally. So gradually you do not notice it happening until you step back and see the whole picture. First it was groceries. Then the internet bill, because you use it most for your work from home days. Then electricity, because you leave your laptop charging overnight. Within a year, I was covering 3 utilities and buying household necessities whenever I noticed we were running low. Then came the furniture. The old sofa collapsed one Saturday morning, springs bursting through the cushions. I bought a replacement, $1,200, for a decent sectional that would last. My mother said it should go in neutral gray because it would match everything. I picked neutral gray. The television died during the Super Bowl. I bought a new one, $800. A smart TV with all the streaming capabilities my parents suddenly could not live without. The washer and dryer gave out 2 years ago. I replaced them both. $1,500 total, because my mother said she would never trust a used appliance again after the old one flooded the laundry room. Then kitchenware because our old pots were practically antiques. then a dining table, because the old one was an embarrassment when we have guests, then small appliances, a microwave, a coffee maker, a stand mixer my mother insisted she needed and used exactly twice. I had never added it up until the night they left for the cruise. I sat at my desk in the smallest bedroom, the one I had been given, because Lydia needed the bigger one for her creative space, which mostly meant piles of clothes and abandoned hobbies. I opened the navy blue folder I had kept since college. Receipts, order confirmations, warranty documents, bank statements. The professional habit of someone who knew that losing documentation was how things went wrong. I spread everything across my desk like pieces of a puzzle, and when the puzzle came together, the picture it showed me was one I had been avoiding for years. Sofa, $1,200. Television, $800. Washer and dryer, $1,500. Dining table, $600. Kitchen appliances, $850. Kitchenware, $650. Monthly utilities over 8 years. Internet, electricity, water, month after month after month. I opened my laptop and built a spreadsheet. Column A, item. Column B, cost. Column C, purchase date. Column D, current estimated value. My fingers moved automatically. This was not emotional anymore. This was data. Total spent on furniture and appliances alone, $15,340. I stared at that number for a long time. That was a decent used car. That was a year of rent. That was 6 months of savings I did not have, because I had been quietly furnishing someone else's life while paying $1,200 a month to sleep in the smallest room. And Lydia, my 29-year-old sister who was still finding herself, had never been asked to contribute a single dollar, because she needs experiences, because she is still figuring things out. I was 34. Apparently, I had figured things out years ago, and what I had figured out, according to this family, was how to be a resource that never ran out. I closed the spreadsheet. I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling where a water stain shaped like a cloud had been sitting in the corner for 2 years. I had offered to have it fixed. "Don't worry about it," my father had said. "We'll get to it, eventually." Never came. But my contributions always did. The realization did not crash over me like a wave. It crystallized, sharp and clear and cold. I needed to leave. Not eventually. Not after the cruise. Not after a family meeting where I would be talked out of it and called dramatic and reminded how much they had done for me. Now, while they were gone, while I had 10 days, I did not waste time browsing apartment listings. Residential moves are slow. Applications, reference checks, security deposits. Landlords who take 2 weeks to respond. I knew a faster way. I pulled up my corporate contacts from work. Our logistics company partners with corporate housing providers. Executive suites designed for relocated employees, traveling consultants, people in transition who need move-in ready solutions immediately. I had booked accommodations there for visiting regional managers a dozen times. I knew their process. I knew their turnaround. I called the direct line Coastal Executive Suites. "This is Marcus." "Hi, Marcus. This is Hinsley Graham with Davidson Logistics. I need an emergency 30-day booking for myself. Personal situation. What do you have available for immediate occupancy? 1 bedroom, ocean view suite. Available now. $2,500 for the month. All utilities included. Fully furnished. Kitchen stocked with basics. $2,500. Almost double what a regular apartment would cost. But I had a secret weapon. An emergency fund I had been quietly rebuilding for 2 years. Specifically, for a catastrophic event. I just had not known until that moment that the catastrophic event would be my own liberation. Perfect. I'll take it. I hung up and sat very still for a moment. In 2 hours, I would have a place to go. A place that was mine. Where I did not owe anyone anything. Where the furniture belonged to the rental company and I could walk away at the end of the lease without leaving thousands of dollars behind. My hands were not shaking. They should have been. This was the biggest decision I had made in years. But they were steady. This was how I operated under pressure at work. Identify the problem. Find the most efficient solution. Execute. Without hesitation. I spent those 2 hours planning. I pulled up a mental inventory of what I needed to take. My clothes, my laptop, my documents, my personal items, and then I walked through the house, not as the daughter who lived here, as the person who had paid for it. The living room. The sectional sofa I'd bought with last year's Christmas bonus. $1,200. I ran my hand over the cushions. I had picked neutral gray because my mother said it would match everything. I had 15 years with this sofa, according to the sales associate. 15 years I had apparently gifted to people who could not afford to take me on a vacation. The entertainment center. The television. $800 paid in monthly installments because dropping that much cash at once would have destroyed my emergency fund. I had set up all the streaming services, taught my father how to use the remote, watched my recommendations fill up with shows I had never chosen. The dining room. The table I had saved 3 months to buy. $600. It had become the family table within a week of delivery. No discussion. No acknowledgement. Just absorbed. The kitchen. The stand mixer. $300. The coffee maker I bought because I actually like good coffee. The set of pots and pans my mother had called embarrassing antiques before I replaced them. The laundry room. The washer and dryer. $1,500 total. I had researched models for 2 weeks, read hundreds of reviews, chosen the most reliable consumer-rated set I could afford. These were not just objects anymore. They were evidence. I went back upstairs, signed the rental agreement from Coastal Executive Suites, set up mail forwarding effective Tuesday, updated my address with my bank, my insurance company, my credit cards. Then, I went to the kitchen drawer and found the roll of bright yellow stickers I used for labeling packages at work. And I walked through the house again, this time with a different purpose. The sofa, yellow tag. The television, yellow tag. The dining table and matching chairs, yellow tag. The washer, the dryer, yellow tag, yellow tag. The stand mixer, the coffee maker, the microwave, the full set of cookware, yellow tag, yellow tag, yellow tag. The bookshelf in the hallway, The shower curtain in the main bathroom, the area rug in the living room, yellow tags everywhere. Like a treasure hunt, in reverse. The only things I did not tag were the things that had existed before I became the family's financial infrastructure. My father's old recliner, with its brown fabric faded and pilling at the arms. A cheap brass lamp my mother had owned since the 80s. Some dusty ceramic figurines on the mantel. Fake plants nobody had ever watered. Those things were not mine to take. I was not a thief. I was simply reclaiming what belonged to me. Tuesday morning, a professional moving crew arrived at 8 o'clock sharp. Early enough that most neighbors were already at work. Late enough that I did not look like I was sneaking. The crew chief approached me at the front door with a clipboard and the professional indifference of a man who had seen everything. Everything marked goes? I nodded. Everything with a yellow tag. Nothing else. They worked with the practiced rhythm of people who had spent years breaking down lives and reassembling them elsewhere. The sofa wrapped in thick blankets. The television nested into a custom box. The washer and dryer rolled out on reinforced hand trucks, their white surfaces gleaming in the morning light. I stood in the doorway and watched. Each item that disappeared into the truck was a weight lifted from my chest. The dining table, the chairs, the rug, the appliances, the cookware, the dishes. All of it gone. And as the living room emptied, something happened that I had not planned. The space transformed. What had been cluttered and suffocating became vast. The hardwood floors, usually hidden beneath furniture and rugs, stretched out bare and scuffed. Dust gathered in the corners where the sofa had stood for years. The walls looked exposed, without the television mounted at their center. And there, in the middle of all that emptiness, sat my father's recliner, alone, threadbare, absurd. I stared at it for a long moment. Then, an idea came to me that felt less like revenge and more like honesty. I walked across the empty room, gripped the sides of the recliner, dragged it, legs scraping against the floor, to what I estimated to be the exact center of the living room. I straightened it, adjusted it left, then right, stepped back and looked at it from different angles until it was perfectly centered. And there it was, one worn-out chair sitting alone in a vast empty room, like a throne in an abandoned kingdom. It was the most truthful thing in the house. "That's the last of it," the crew chief called from the front door. "We're heading to the suite now. You following us?" "Yes," I said. "I'll be right behind you." I took one last look around, at the empty walls, the bare floors, the single chair in the center of a room that had once been full of things I had bought and called family property. Then, I closed the door behind me. My friend Paige met me at the executive suite. She arrived with iced coffees and her leather jacket, stepping into the furnished apartment and breathing, "Holy hell. This place is gorgeous." It really was. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a slice of ocean in the distance. Granite countertops. A bedroom spacious enough to feel like rest was actually possible. We unpacked boxes, arranged throw pillows, hung artwork, and then my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. "Mom." Mobile. They were calling from the cruise ship, probably to check whether I had watered the fern and collected the mail like the reliable daughter they had always assumed I would be. I watched the screen light up and vibrate with each ring. Paige looked over, saw the name, raised her eyebrows. I shook my head. The phone rang until it went to voicemail, then buzzed again with a notification. I turned it face down on the counter and went back to unpacking. "Are you okay?" Paige asked quietly. I looked around at the apartment, at my sofa against the wall, my coffee maker on the counter, my dishes in the cabinet, everything mine, chosen by me, for me, in a space where nobody was keeping score. "I'm perfect," I said, and I meant it. People ask sometimes whether I regret it, whether taking those things was too far, whether I should have had a conversation first, given them a chance, been the bigger person. That question contains its own answer. I had been the bigger person for 8 years. I had been mature and understanding and responsible and accommodating. I had absorbed the cost of other people's choices without complaint or invoice or acknowledgement. And when they wanted 10 days of Caribbean sunshine, the thought of inviting me did not cross their minds. Because I was not a person to them in those moments. I was infrastructure. I was the thing that kept the lights on and the appliances running and the household functioning while everyone else lived their lives. Taking back what I had paid for was not revenge. It was accounting. The night they came home and found the house, I was sitting on my sofa in my ocean view suite, watching the sun go down over the water. I did not listen to the voicemails until the next morning. And even then, I listened with the calm of someone who has already made peace with a decision that was a long time coming. I was never the daughter who could not get it together. I was the daughter who held everything together, quietly, invisibly, at enormous personal cost for people who called it family, while I called it survival. The Fern, I was told later, did not make it. I found that out and I felt nothing except the particular satisfaction of a woman who finally understood the difference between being loved and being useful. They are not the same thing. They were never the same thing. And the day I finally understood that was the day I stopped confusing one for the other. If this story found you tonight, you already know why. I will see you in the next one.